I want somebody to make a cut of this movie where every time they connect on the Force, someone adds the Discord join notification. So like they connect, it goes ba-dum, ba-dum, and he's like, "What's up, Pookie Bear? Where you at? You want to let me know?" She's like, "No, you're evil."
Sorry we couldn't Skype tonight, but that's I'm
not as evil as you think. Hello and welcome to the Nerdiest podcast, the show where nerds talk about nerdy things. I'm one of your hosts, Mr. Nick Barrett, and as always, I'm joined by my ride or die, my co-host, Mr. Jackson Glass. And today, we are going to be doing part 2 of our Revisiting the Skywalker saga, and we're going to be diving into episodes 7, 8, and 9. 3 of the most controversial Star Wars movies of all time. I mean, I've got notes on notes on notes here, bro. It's going to be a wild episode because we both have a lot of thoughts, a lot of things to say, and it's going to be interesting. And if we have time at the end, we're going to try to go over the original episode 9 script by Colin Trevorrow for Star Wars Duel of the Fates, which if you don't know, as I said, was the Rise of Skywalker before Colin Trevorrow got fired. So if you want to hear about that, as we kind of take that into account in our conversation, that'll be towards the end. So before we dive into any more Star Wars-ness, though, I want to know, how have you been doing? How's it been since the last time we recorded?
I've been good. It hasn't been long since we recorded because we're weekly now. But, I have been good, and I'm just enjoying summer, just hanging out, even though it's not, air quote, summer. When you're in school, like, the first day of summer is not the first day of summer. Like, summer is when you are not in school. So I've just been enjoying summer. I've watched a lot of movies. Mainly Star Wars is what I've been watching. But I also went to theaters, and I saw The Fall Guy, which was phenomenal, by the way. Absolutely hilarious. If you haven't seen it, I think you really should, because it's the most like 2015 action movie we've had since 2015. Like, it's just fun, it's hilarious, it's really heartfelt, it's got a great romance subplot, there's nothing inappropriate in it, there's like a little bit of language and violence, but other than that, like, it's just a good time. I think I ended up giving it like 4 stars because it's a little predictable, but it's a really great, like, just turn your brain off and have a fun time in the movie theater movie. And I'm definitely going to get the Blu-ray when it comes out. So been doing that. I recently had some boys over and we hung out. And I made dinner. I made chicken cordon bleu, which is a recipe I've made before, but I think it's really, really delicious. So I did that. And then we also watched a movie that night. We watched Diary of a Wimpy Kid, which is a movie that I saw in theaters as a child. And then, that was just kind of it. And I was like, okay, cool. I know a lot of people like this movie. It's a banger. It is so funny. There is a YouTube video coming out at some point about the Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies because we're going to watch all of them. It's going to happen. So was doing that. We also been working on some pretty exciting stuff. Some of it on YouTube. You'll see that kind of soon. If you're subscribed to the Glass Studios on YouTube, you could go watch new stuff coming soon there. Also recorded vocals yesterday for a new EP coming out soon. If you don't follow Jackson Glass on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever you listen to music, new music is coming soon, and we recorded a ton of vocals yesterday, and I'm really, really happy about it. Really excited about the songs we're working on, and I think they're really fun, and I think they're hilarious, and I think we did a good job on it. So can't wait to release that. That's pretty much it. Other than that, I've really just been watching Star Wars to get ready for this episode. And what I'll say is, this happens every time we do like a big franchise revisit. It's not that I don't enjoy the movies we're watching, because I really love Star Wars, and I enjoyed watching almost all of these movies.
Almost.
Keyword is almost. But by the time you get to like movie number 7, and you're like you're like checking your watch. You're like, I need to watch 3 more movies by Saturday, and it's like this is a little exhausting. So, not that I did not enjoy most of these movies, because I love Star Wars. It's just the impending deadline is scary, because you're like, am I gonna finish these in time? Like, I don't know. Which is just like, I don't know. That's just the condition of every podcast, YouTube content creator, where you have to like catch up on a movie or TV series for the content. You just gotta binge it. You just gotta watch it. You know. So anyway, that's that about that. I'm happy to be here. Happy to talk about some Star Wars. But Mr. Nick, how was your week? What have you been up to?
Well, it would be nice if I could actually remember what I did this week. That would be a great place to start. It's been a fine week. Most of it was spent watching Star Wars like you.
Mm-hmm.
I squeezed in a lot of live streams last week. Like, a lot. Like, I streamed Friday, I streamed Saturday, and I streamed Monday, which was a lot. But I will say, I have two great accomplishments this week.
Okay.
One being that one of my shorts now has 21,000 views.
Wow.
It's a short recommending an anime to people by using the title "This New Anime is Trapped on Disney Plus," which is true to an extent. It's trapped on Disney Plus in Japan and Hulu in the US, but this anime is trapped on Hulu doesn't ring the same as Disney Plus.
Because people hate Disney.
Exactly.
Which we'll get
it's
to in a
not
minute.
lying, it's just good marketing.
Right. There's this episode, have you seen the episode of Arthur where he sells his toys on the internet and is like, new, bigger size, and then puts them in a bigger box? This is what you're doing.
That's exactly what it... Dude, that's what chip companies do. What are you talking about?
And he's like, it's called marketing. And his parents are like, that's called lying.
That's called lying. No.
No.
And then my second accomplishment of the week was on Monday. So we started off strong and stopped there.
Right.
Because the short also came out on Monday. So, like, my 2 accomplishments were on Monday. And we just been coasting the rest of the week. I successfully ratioed the Daily Wire on Twitter with anime, which is so funny because if you know anything about them, you'll know that like Matt Walsh is a very big like, anime is satanic, blah 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 blah. But then they put out this adult animated show, Mr. Bertram, and they put out their post that was like, "Hey, go watch our show. It's on our website now or whatever." And then I like replied to it and said, "Oh no, I'm actually gonna go watch Spy Family, which is an anime about good wholesome family values." And my bad. Anime is satanic. Sorry, can't watch that. Woke up Monday morning, boom, ratio. Got him. And the ratio held for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But then like halfway through the week, their tweet got a boost and it overtook. But
for a while there, yours had more likes.
For a while there, I was cooking. You know?
I watched a YouTube video about someone who reviewed that show, and they were just like, it's just not even like, the idea of making something. So essentially, here's the quick synopsis. They marketed this show as no one wanted this show because it was too offensive.
I don't think that's
we're
why no
not
one
holding any punches. And I watched this really good video about this guy, and he was like, "Wow, I can't wait to watch the cartoon that no one wanted." I was like, "This is the dumbest marketing play I've ever seen." And the thought of just making content with the intention of offending is like borderline propaganda, you know?
No,
like,
that's exactly what it is. And I have a whole video going out, so I'll like condense my thoughts because I have a video going out on Wednesday, hopefully, about this. My problem with this show is that it's marketed as an anti-woke, like, we're gonna like be offensive with our humor and whatnot. But I also watched a video about it, but the video was watching Mr. Bertram until I laugh. And he made it through the full episode without laughing. He was like, dang, you really got the whole... Like, his video was funnier than the actual show. But the problem with this show is it has no substance. It has no plot aside from being, gotcha, we're going to trigger the liberals
Checkmate,
with
liberals.
this one.
Right. And you're like, Lord have mercy.
And you're like, this is a show for conservative boomers, and you're not reaching the culture with this. Like, you're not...
You're just isolating yourself more.
You're isolating
so
yourself and alienating an audience. And, like, no one from Gen Z is going to watch this show. No one from Gen Alpha is going to watch this show.
They're going to clown it on YouTube. Like,
going to go watch anime, which is kind of the point of my video. So, it's just... I was happy to ratio. And apparently most people who are watching it don't like it.
No, they're hate watching.
Which is this is the problem that we're stuck in American media at the moment, is the only people who can afford to do stuff are the boomers.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what the boomers and millennials are putting out.
Yeah.
And it's not helping. They're like, we're losing the culture war, but why could that be? All we're doing is dogging on everything everyone likes instead of trying to meet them where they're at and making stuff that continually alienates them.
You got me. I'm kind of lost on this one. I don't know.
That's my
TBH.
biggest issue with like boomers who are like, anime is satanic, anime is bad. And I'm like, first of all, problem number one, God can work through anything, even the most like deranged of things.
Right.
Two, if you want to win the culture, you got to meet people where they're at. Like, that's I just inspired a whole new video. But like the thing is, this is so off topic, but it's like
we'll get to Star Wars here in a second.
The thing is with that argument is it's very like, I'm going to stay over here and you have to come here to get, especially for Christians, like you have to come here.
Right.
Jesus didn't do that. Like, the founder of our faith did not do that. He met people where they were at and brought it to them. So why can we not do that with anime? Why can we not say, hey, with anime, games, D&D, whatever, let's go to those people, because we're supposed to bring the gospel to those people. We're supposed to they don't have to come to us. We're supposed to go to them. So yeah, that's why I have an anime YouTube channel now.
Anyway,
I'm writing that down. That's a video idea. Hold up.
Yeah. Well, it's also like when they make shows like that, it's like there's no intent. What's your intention? Because you're not intending to change anyone's mind. You're not intending to bridge a divide. You're not intending to like be like a middle ground for people to like come together in it. All you're doing is be like feeding one side and then pissing off another side very intentionally.
Yes.
And it's just kind of like, this is not beneficial for literally anyone. Like, you're just making people on this side crazier and people on this side more pissed off, which just divides. And it's like, this is stupid. So,
yes. You know what doesn't do that?
You know what is stupid?
I was going to say, you know what doesn't cause unnecessary divides? Star Wars. But not the ones we're talking about today.
That's yeah, I was gonna say that's really not true at all.
not these three. The last six, sure.
The last six, here we are.
Not these.
So we split our Skywalker Saga Revisit into 2 episodes, and I know what you're thinking. Why did you talk about 6 movies and then talk about 3 movies? And it's because we have infinitely more to say about these 3 movies, being The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker. And after rewatch, I realized how much I actually have to say. Because before rewatch, I've seen The Force Awakens a good bit, because I actually like that one. And then I've seen The Last Jedi. I saw all these in theaters. I've seen The Last Jedi once or twice since theaters, and I've seen Rise of Skywalker once since out of theaters. And before rewatch, I had like strong opinions of like, yeah, this could have been better, this sucked, this and that. But now I'm like, no, this is what I believe. I feel this about this. Like, I'm back. Like, we are so back for Star Wars. Like, I'm ready to go to war. So, here we are. General thoughts. We'll go into specifics here in a minute. But just start at the beginning. Give me your Force Awakens general thoughts. Started off question mark.
Okay. So
I also would like to say before we start, I think we are legitimately going to disagree on every single movie in this of these three.
I don't think so.
We'll see.
I think we'll disagree on 2 out of the 3.
We'll see.
I don't think we're going to... Now I'm worried. I don't like where this is going. Okay. The Force Awakens. My first general thought for all of these is going to be wasted potential.
Wasted potential.
That is, if you could summarize the sequel trilogy in 2 words, it's wasted potential. Because The Force Awakens does a pretty decent job of setting up this new, like, post Episode 6, like, post Empire, New Republic, whole shebang. Sets that up very well. Sets up Rey as a main character, Finn, Poe, Kylo Ren is this established villain, but then, like, there's Snoke, who's this big bad over him. And I'm doing another, like we did last episode, the historical context of 7, 8, and 9. Which is a little harder because they're so recent. But
right,
also,
like, we were there for the historical context.
But also, there's Okay. Sorry. There was a gnat right in front of me, and it was, like, hovering on my mic. So, first of all, The Force Awakens turns 10 years old next year.
No,
next
it doesn't.
December.
No,
I
it
thought about
doesn't.
that when I watched The Last
No, it
Jedi
doesn't.
this week. I was like, oh, The Last Jedi came out in 2017. That was 7 years ago?
No.
But then I
don't like
mentioned that to one of my friends, and they were like, yeah, there's a 3-year period where we just didn't keep time, though. And that's
Yeah.
2020 to 2022. That time, it's back. That time doesn't count.
Yeah, that doesn't count. That's not real time. So
No.
it's technically 2021 right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that, and the historical context is harder to keep because it's all so recent. But but Disney has also done a lot to fill in the gaps between 6 and 7 with, like, The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, like, so some of the issues I'll bring up with The Force Awakens have kind of been fixed.
A little bit, yeah.
But not really, because it's not like they could do much. Because I don't think they had The Mandalorian and Ahsoka in the plan. Like, it's another problem. Wasted potential, lack of vision. I don't think when they did the sequels, they had this big book of, like, okay, so here's where the main movies are going to go. Here's where the shows are going to go. Here's where the books are going to go. You know, like Marvel does or did, where, like, they had this big book of, like, okay, this movie's going to do this. This show's going to do this. Like, we have a plan.
And then they'll all come together here and do this.
Exactly. No, there was no plan. So, yeah, I think The Force Awakens, I was a little too harsh on it before because it's not my favorite because it does a lot of setting up. I'm not a big fan. I don't know if you picked it up on the podcast. I'm not a big fan of setup stuff. I don't like...
Yeah.
Like, Fellowship of the Ring is not my favorite Lord of the Rings because it's just setup for the good stuff in the second and third.
But it's necessary, so
Right.
it's hard.
It's necessary and you can't get rid of it. So, The Force Awakens also is a little too, like, cookie cutter, A New Hope, but
Right.
I get it. They played it safe a little bit. And my third thing is no backbone.
Ooh.
No taking too much constructive criticism. Because the sequels, they'll never tell you this, but it was made to appease the fans. because in episode 7, everyone was like, that was too usual. Like, that was too samey. It's too cliche.
Right.
It's just A New Hope. So then The Last Jedi was like, all right, let's do a bunch of new and crazy stuff and kind of shift up the fundamentals of Star Wars here. No. That's not Star Wars how I grew up with it. That's not, no. That was too different. And then we get episode 9. That's kind of like, okay, well, let's, we're going to get rid of
new, but it's the same. And
but
people like Palpatine.
Do something new.
People like Palpatine.
Yeah.
Let's fire Colin Trevorrow. You know what? Everyone knows that the best movies are the ones where someone has to fix it halfway through. Everyone knows that worked for Justice League.
Instead of committing to the decisions that we approve.
Everyone knows that it worked for Justice League, and so, where's the Colin Trevorrow cut of Rise of Skywalker? Yeah. So
that's my general thoughts on The Force Awakens.
Yeah, I pretty much second all of that. I think that The Force Awakens is my favorite of these 3 because, like, I second the wasted potential really hard because I don't feel like The Force Awakens did a bad job of creating a new world or like expanding the world into something new. So, you get some really dope stuff like Maz Kanata's really awesome, and you explore the First Order, and like there's a lot of the planets and the worlds and the settings of the entire sequel trilogy are some of my favorite in Star Wars. Like the planets are awesome, and then we just cannot do a single thing that has any repercussion. Like we just cannot. We can't kill anyone. We can't make anyone feel sad. Like we can't just like, we can't be its own thing. Like it's so just tied to what they think fans want in the original trilogy that it never actually grew wings. It just feels like a sequel. Like it is a 8-hour sequel. Just the way all 3 of them together, it's just a continuation, which like is fine, but that's why we call it the freaking sequel trilogy, because it's not new. It's not its own thing. It's trying to just continue when it like, and it's like so back and forth on itself. Like on one hand, it's trying to be its own thing that can sustain its own and continue to do these original characters while also refusing to give up anything from the original trilogy.
Right.
It's like we have to have Luke, Han, Leia, Lando, like, and even if they die, they have to come back so that they can even just talk to characters because the Force. We're going to pretend to kill Chewie, but then he's alive. And we're going to pretend to wipe C-3PO's memory, but he's back. He's fine. And it's just like, we can't even, like, the only character they actually kill is General Hux, who has the least emotional impact of any character in this entire freaking trilogy. Because it's like, am I supposed to be sad? Like,
that was so dumb.
It was
I
stupid.
hate that. I was with like every fiber of my being.
They couldn't even kill like Poe's little ex-girlfriend that he had a scuffle with. Like they couldn't even kill her. And I was like, I've known her for 10 minutes and kind of hate her guts. Like you could kill her off. I don't care.
You haven't given me a reason to be invested enough to care that they died.
Right, for real.
Like
and
we
then,
spend actually no, I'll save that. We'll get to the Rise of Skywalker.
We'll save it. So The Force Awakens. Since it's a setup movie, no one has to die except, Han. But like
he had to die.
He had to die. And then he came back in the third one, and I was just like, how much money did they give Harrison Ford for this?
A lot.
Like, this is not.
They had to have given him a lot because he said that the reason he went back for Force Awakens was so they could kill the character, so he wouldn't have to do this again.
Right. So
then they got him to do it again.
Then he did it again, and I'm like, dude, he secretly likes it, but
he likes the money.
It's like they did a good job expanding, and like Rey was an interesting character in The Force Awakens, and I really liked the idea that she was nobody. Like it was a really. you know, we have this entire expansive universe where we have all these movies and shows and comics and books and like all this stuff together, so much lore, and we can only focus on like 2 bloodlines. And I'm like, literally just make her nobody. Why is that a problem? It's just Disney. Rewatching them, I realized how incredibly just Disneyified that the movies are. They're very whimsical, and they're very like almost like Guardians of the Galaxy, where
Oh
it's
my
like,
gosh, they do feel like that. You're so right.
Yep, they're very Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's like it has to be about the family dynamic, and it has to be, you know, every scene has to be a really fast spaceship chase with cool visual effects, and like everything has to be a callback, and it's just like, just be your own thing, make her nobody. And so in The Force Awakens, when there's that mystery, I remember there was so much hype of like, who is Rey? That was a big deal.
We theorized for 4 years.
Yep.
On who she was.
And 90% of the theories,
only to be let down in the end.
90% of the theories were better than what they actually did. Like, that's what was so frustrating. And so there was so much hype and like a really committed fan base to like, yeah, let's follow this character. Let's see what's up. Finn is awesome. Like a you know, former stormtrooper who's obviously hella Force sensitive. Like there's no doubt about that. We just can't apparently do anything with that anyway. The like former stormtrooper narrative was really cool, and then like the gung-ho pilot thing that Poe has going like isn't bad. Like, you know, let's run with it. There's a lot of room for character growth and development. And then the end of Force Awakens, and Luke Skywalker is here? That's crazy. Movie ends. You have to wait like freaking years to go see the next one.
I remember watching trailer breakdowns and analyses to figure out where we were going to go. A set image would leak and people were picking that apart. Like, it was a fun time to be a Star Wars fan. And then after The Force Awakens, because here's the thing. The Force Awakens set the bar up here of like, that was a pretty good movie. That was pretty enjoyable. Right. It's got a good direction going for it.
Right.
My Letterboxd review is literally the worst thing about this movie is that we know what comes next.
Right.
Because if you take away the other 2 movies, Force Awakens is actually pretty solid.
It's really solid, you know?
And
it
then
also
as
like,
you add on to it, it's like,
oh, this sucks.
Actually,
you also have to give The Force Awakens the credit it's due in the sense of like, and we talked about this a little bit in the last episode, it revived Star Wars for a generation. Like, there's a ton of kids now, like little girls that get to dress up as Rey for Halloween, and that's really awesome. Or like, you know, you get to see a black stormtrooper in Star Wars, which, you know, should have been here a while ago, but like, you know, that's another conversation.
Well, even just another positive black character in Star Wars.
Right. No, for
like,
real.
That's a big deal.
And so it's like, they really, but it didn't feel forced. Like, it wasn't like shoehorned in like a lot of other Disney stuff now.
Right.
And so it was very much like, oh, like, you know, a strong female character. That's not bad. And, you know, this and that. And I was like, okay, I kind of vibe with it. And I remember I lived in Seattle when The Force Awakens came out in theaters. And this was before, like, pre-bought tickets were a thing. Like, it was not super popular to like buy tickets ahead of time. And so we stood in line in Seattle December to go get tickets for The Force Awakens. And we got in, and I remember like I liked Star Wars, and I was like, sure, whatever, like Star Wars. And then this is a theater experience I'll never forget. The title card hits. It's like the ba-da! Literally the theater erupted in applause.
Yep.
Like, the people that were there were so thrilled to be back. And the whole movie was like that, because this was like opening weekend. Everyone was like, we haven't seen new Star Wars in literally forever. And now we're in theaters. It had been a decade.
Because it was 2005 to 2015.
So we were like, this is lit. Like, everyone was so into it. Like, X-Wings would come in and we'd like cheer for them, and like a villain would come in and we'd boo. And it was like a real community experience, and that's awesome. And so I I can't judge The Force Awakens for that. Like in a way, it revived Star Wars for a lot of people. They just slowly decided to kill what they revived immediately.
Yeah.
So that's kind of The Force Awakens. It's kind of cookie cutter, like you said, but I feel like there was a really good idea to be like, let's reel them in and be like, hey, Han and Leia are here, and then tease Luke. Okay, cool. That was like we're back in. Now evolve into your own thing so that we can actually like these movies outside of the original trilogy, because you can watch the prequel trilogy outside of the original trilogy. You cannot watch the sequels outside of the original trilogy. Like they are so like locked into these characters that we just can't. And I think that's stupid. So going through into The Last Jedi.
No, hold on. I have gripes with The Force Awakens. Don't think this movie's going to get out scot-free.
All right, let me hear it.
So, my first note, as I was like reading the title crawl and going into like, so there's a resistance, so there's another rebellion, there's the First Order, so there's another empire. My question is, why was the First Order allowed to do what they did in the first place?
Yeah.
It's such a... Which I know, if you watch The Mandalorian and you watch Ahsoka, you'll know that like there's these fragments of it. Okay, whatever. We didn't have that context when this movie came out.
Right.
I
also don't think that was the intention. They were just throwing it at the wall.
Yeah, no. There was no like Imperial remnants. It was, if you thought about it, it was assumed. But going off the end of Return of the Jedi, you would have also assumed that after defeating the Emperor, our band of heroes would have then finished the rebellion across the galaxy and gotten rid of the Empire and like really just flushed that out. Get everything out. Get all the gunk out. Set up a new hierarchy. Here's what I don't understand is, and I know this is like a very, it's a good guy versus a bad guy. Like the Emperor took control just like that and immediately had all of the galaxy under his thumb. And you're telling me it's been like 30 years and the New Republic couldn't do anything?
Yeah.
They were so fragile that all it took was one blast from Starkiller Base to wipe out the entire new government? What? What do you mean?
Yeah.
The First Order in these movies is the rebellion because they are the anti. This is why it doesn't make sense, because there's the New Republic and then there's the First Order who's rebelling against the New Republic, and then there's the Resistance who's part of the New Republic but not really funded by, because the government can't endorse a rebellion, but they're resisting against the First. So why not just make the New Republic a thing and have them establish, it's the currently established order, and have the Resistance be the military of the New Republic? Like every government has a military to defend itself from anything that would come in to overthrow that. Don't make the Resistance its own thing separate from the New Republic with this evil bad guy in the middle. Just put these two together. You have the good guys and the bad guys. You don't have to overcomplicate it. So there's that. I don't know.
Yeah.
How did... And I know more of the course correction comes in the shows because they try to justify why the First Order exists.
Right.
Because there was no justification other than, hey, we're doing the Empire again. Like
because we need a bad guy.
TIE fighters, Darth Vader knockoff, Emperor Palpatine knockoff and all. Like, we're just doing the Empire again. Which is another point of, like, interweaving itself too close to the originals. So that was weird, which is something that will continue to get progressively worse as we move into the next movie.
Yes.
I also want to note, Starkiller Base, for being such a big thing, really went down easier than the Death Star.
No, it did. There
Like-
wasn't even like some big like.
It was literally,
wasn't even
here's
some
this
big, like,
giant
secret plan.
thing. It was legitimately
Yeah.
a massive target for them to hit. It wasn't
Yeah.
like in the Death Star, we're like, oh, we got to do the trench, but then Darth Vader comes behind us in the trench, and then he's gonna like start blowing us up, and we have
They
this
were like,
really
no,
tiny window.
if we hit this really hard, then it'll blow up, and that's what they did. And it was just like, bruh, it was anticlimactic. It's stupid.
It was. Some
But
of my
also-
notes.
It's the most Star Wars feeling movie of the three. So like,
yeah.
you gotta just.
It-
You gotta just like take it for what it is. Like count your blessings. Like
like reading through my notes, I have the Resistance one. The concept of a deserting stormtrooper is so cool. Too bad they flubbed it up.
Yep.
That's most of my notes. Knights of Ren, another wasted concept. They didn't even show
Dude.
up in the movie outside of the flashback.
The Knights of Ren were maybe the coolest concept of this entire trilogy, and they used them maybe once. And it's like, are you freaking kidding me? This literally why Kylo Ren sucks, because they're like, he's so evil. And I'm like, where? Where have we seen that he's evil?
He
Like
doesn't
he's
do
done
evil.
nothing.
But
He's done
Jackson,
nothing but like throw tantrums.
he's got the light inside of him. He's conflicted.
Oh my
He's
gosh.
being
But he's-
torn between the light
here's the-
and the dark.
Here's the thing is that he was never actually dark. He was always light. Like, you know, when Anakin was
Darth Vader?
the Anakin turn from like light to dark was so justified because he was like, hey, the Jedi's kind of screwed up. Like, this is kind of whack. And it was this really great like progression in 3 movies. Kylo Ren was just wanted to be emo. Like, he was never actually bad. He was just an emo kid. Like, he sucks.
Yeah, and I mean, even like Anakin had a justified reason for the Jedi, but also had motivation because of Padme.
Right.
So his like the double sides of the character motivation was there, and I don't know, man. The Knights of Ren are such a cool concept of like, let's give Kylo Ren underlings. And I think this problem lies more on Rian Johnson than anyone else. Because Rian Johnson didn't follow up and use them in The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
But also, they weren't in The Force Awakens, except for
So, like-
in the flashback, or like the Force vision
Yeah,
or
the
whatever
little Force
Rey
vision.
has. They're there so that she can see that Kylo Ren has like these guys behind him. And then they never
And
show
that's
up.
it.
They're not on Starkiller Base. They weren't with him at all. You'd think if they're called the Knights of Ren, they would
They should
follow
be with
him
him.
around.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's a king to them, and they would follow him around.
I also think The Force Awakens has close to my least favorite moment in all 3 of these movies, where the point of Star Wars is mystery. You shouldn't know everything. But how on earth does Maz Kanata have Luke Skywalker's lightsaber? And she's like, how'd you get this? A story for another time. A story that's never told, by the way. Like, that's the dumbest. Oh my gosh. I think that's bull.
It is.
It was such a plot device. It was just a Deus Ex Machina that is just like.
This is the
Anyway.
thing of like, why not let people have their own stuff?
Right. Why can't Rey have her own lightsaber?
What if Maz just had a random lightsaber? Why'd it have to
know?
be Luke's? Why
Because
couldn't
she
it just
had
be
to
a
give it to
random
Luke.
lightsaber? Or it could have been like, I don't know, Obi-Wan's lightsaber? I don't know.
I don't care.
Because the whole point she gave it, well, okay, so plot reason, it was calling out to Rey
right.
for her to like get connected with the Force and initially reject
Right.
it and like whatever. But then it gets given to Finn. Like, you can see I'm trying to do the mental gymnastics to understand why this was here. Aside from being hey. You'd think, sorry, I just thought of this. You'd think with Maz being as close to Han, Chewie, and then presumably by extension, Leia and Luke, she wouldn't give Luke his own lightsaber back? She wouldn't be like, hey, I found this thing that probably means a lot to you. That was Luke's your lightsaber and your dad's before you. She knows it was Anakin's because she tells that to Rey. You'd think, hey, this prominent family heirloom? Do you want it back? No? I'll just keep it in my basement until this girl from the desert shows up. I'm going to
give it to this random chick, and then she's going to pretend that she's part of your bloodline. And it's just like, what the actual heck? This is stupid. It's literally so stupid. Also, this is a first draft. Like, all three of these movies is a first draft.
Well, except for episode 9, that's a second draft. Because they threw out the first one.
Too soon. Too soon.
Another thing I wrote in my notes is from when they're on Starkiller Base.
Oh, yeah.
And he's doing the, yelling speech of, we're going to overthrow the government. And all the stormtroopers put their arm up. And my note was, they're not Nazis because they're using the wrong arm. And it's a fist. So ignore that there's one dictator standing above them all with a giant red flag with their symbol in the background, shouting about how corrupt the current government is and how there's a bunch of soldiers on the ground. That's not important.
That's not important. They're not
Nazis because they used their left arm and did a fist, not their right arm, okay?
See, well, the original Empire was based on Nazi Germany. Like, George Lucas said that.
The First Order is definitely based on Nazi Germany.
Based on. And it's just like, whoa, there's no subtlety or subtext to anything we are doing here.
I think that's another issue with the sequels, is there is no subtlety in subtext. It's all very clearly spelled out for you instead of letting you figure it out.
That really pissed me off the most in, I think, The Rise of Skywalker. Because watching it last night, literally one of the lines, my gosh, Maz Kanata's there, like Leia's about to reach out to Kylo Ren, and Maz Kanata literally looks directly in the camera, and she's like, Leia knows that to speak to him would cause all of her strength.
Cost everything.
I'm like, why did you have to tell me that? Everyone knows you should tell, don't show. That's really just standard writing technique.
Because she was talking to R2. It's not even like she was talking to a character who wouldn't understand what was going on.
Right, for real. I'm like, they're just like, as somehow Palpatine returned. And I'm like, there wasn't a better way to show that?
We're not there yet. We're not there
yet. Gosh. And then the way that, so The Force Awakens is not as guilty as this, and I'll give them that. But the other two, to me, the way that the script is structured is it's and then it's just
they go
like
to Canto Bight, and then they get captured, and then they do this,
and so it's like there's no actual connectivity to the plot. It's just like a bunch of scenes strung together. And it's just not cohesive in any way, shape, or form because there wasn't a plan. There was no intentionality to anything they did.
Right.
Because they let 3 different people write their movies, which is beyond stupid. Like, I could have told you that was stupid.
Which is so funny because they rectified that mistake with The Mandalorian. Right. And they had Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni do the story, and then they swapped out directors every episode because you can't tell the difference as much when the story is consistent. If the story is yanking you in and out of immersion, you're going to notice the directorial differences a lot more.
Right.
Like, there's a difference to Rian Johnson's style than J.J. Abrams' style. So what ended up happening with the sequels is now The Last Jedi is the one that is kind of the lone wolf of the 3.
The odd one out, yeah.
Because the other 2 have this very clear JJ influence compared to the Last Jedi. So The Force Awakens is a movie that does in fact exist. I just wish
It is the lesser of three evils.
Yes, it is. It's not my favorite. My favorite is The Last Jedi, and we're about to get there. I'm fairly confident I could either sway Jackson's opinion on the movie or at least get him to see the intentionality behind it.
I can see the intentionality. I just don't like it.
I think I don't know. I mean, I can't make you like a movie, but I might be able to sway your opinion a little bit. At least that's my line of thinking. I sure can try. Yeah, I don't have much more to say about The Force Awakens.
Yeah, I think you could move on.
The last thing I'll clarify is everyone's like, why did Rey beat Kylo Ren? She's too strong. I would argue Rey was not a Mary Sue. The only movie she was not a Mary Sue in was The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Because the only reason Kylo lost is because he was just tired, man.
Right.
Also, in a state of emotional distress, he just killed his dad. His Wookiee equivalent of an uncle shot him in the gut.
Yeah.
And we've seen what a bowcaster can do previously in the movie.
Yes.
So he took that hit like a man. And then the whole time they're outside, like he's beating that wound. So he's inflicting more damage onto it, but also using the pain to fuel himself, which is kind of a cool thing.
Right. I guess.
And then he like fights Finn, and Rey has a brief power-up that allows her to win.
Yeah.
But also he was at his weakest.
Can we also stop pretending that Kylo Ren is good? Like,
he has more training, but he's not like
he has more training, but she's so force sensitive and controls her emotions way better than he does, and that's why she wins.
That's debatable.
Yeah,
especially in the second and third movie.
He like wigs out at any given opportunity and like just flips out.
Yeah. Also, Rey would have more combat experience because she grew up in the desert. So this is that argument between real world experience and just running training simulations.
Training. So this is like private school versus homeschool. Like, you know, Kylo Ren was private school and like had all this, and he's like, why is my training failing? And then Rey is like, I learned this in the real world, buddy. And like
so like she has that ingrained. So she also has a leg up there. So I don't think it's as unfair of a fight as everyone thinks it is.
Yeah.
But it's not like, I don't know. So
this is also where the sexual tension between Rey and Kylo Ren starts.
Stop. That didn't exist.
I mean,
that didn't exist. That is the one thing I will drag The Last Jedi for, is adding that.
She was just his little ray of sunshine, and she was going to go into that dark boy's heart.
I'm going to leave this call. I will not stand for that.
The entire time we watched this movie, we clowned the fake tension between them, and the whole time we were just like, "Space girlfriend, where are you? I need to talk to you through my mind." Oh, sorry, I forgot to put a shirt on. And it's just like, what the actual heck? This is garbage.
All right, we're moving into The Last Jedi.
All right, we're moving into Last Jedi.
I want somebody to make a cut of this movie where every time they connect on the Force, someone adds the Discord join notification. So like they connect, it goes ba-dung, ba-dung, and he's like, "What's up, Pookie Bear? Where you at? You want to let me know?" She's like, "No, you're evil."
Sorry we couldn't Skype tonight, but that's I'm
not as evil as you think. Actually, like, I'm not the one in the wrong. Luke is. She's like, "That's a lie," and he's like, "But you got the daddy issues."
Something I know something about.
She's like.
This is where we use all of our Star Wars pickup lines, and he just be like, "Girl, I need you. I've been solo this whole time,
girl,
and
you're nothing, but not to me.
You're nothing, but not. That's no moon. Take a look at this moon." So,
okay. General thoughts on The Last Jedi. Go.
The one word I can describe how I feel about The Last Jedi is conflicted. Because I think that I really have said for a very long time that I want a more stylistic Star Wars movie.
Yep.
I really want Star Wars to have a really awesome creative director. But The Last Jedi is what that is.
Yeah.
But I don't like the style. I don't like the way it looks. And I can't describe it because, especially on this rewatch, I was like, there's some good cinematography here. Like, there is some really great shots. Like, it is shot very well. Rian Johnson is a great director. I didn't like it. I did not like the way it looked, and I think a lot of it was it didn't feel Star Wars. It felt very Guardians of the Galaxy. This is the one that is very Guardians of the Galaxy to me, and I feel like... And, like, Star Wars has humor. You can't get mad at Star Wars for humor. If you've watched every movie has humor. Like, you can't be like, Marvel is ruining movies because now they all have to be quippy. And I'm like, Star Wars has always been corny and quippy. Like, that's not the problem. I think The Last Jedi just... It has so much going on that I don't want to follow it. It's so much... There's, like... These people are on a side quest. These people are on a side quest. This person's on a side quest. And we kind of get together at the end, but not really. And then, you know, Leia does her whole Mary Poppins thing. And, like, you know, that's kind of whatever. And I also just... I don't like Luke in this movie. I don't. I think they ruined his character.
That's where we're going to disagree.
Especially... watching the original trilogy and how just incredibly mature he was at the end of Return of the Jedi. And then I'm like, we've undone so much character growth. That was the point of the original trilogy. And now we have to make him this weird hermit. Like, I don't like that. And it's very nihilistic. It's very like, what's the point of life? And he makes some good points about the Jedi. He makes some great points of like, yeah, no, you're right. That's kind of weird. Like, you shouldn't be like that. But the solution was not to isolate. Like, yes, this is out of fear, but he just responded so intensely, and that didn't feel in the character for me. And something I noticed about this movie is Rian Johnson doesn't know how to end a scene or start a scene, because almost every scene of this movie, and I want to make a compilation of this, is someone waking up. If you don't know where to go, pass out, like knock out, whatever. I feel like this is like when you're playing with your Legos and you need to get from A to B, but you don't know. Someone gets knocked out and then they wake up in a mysterious location, right? This movie does this like 80 times. In this entire movie, it's usually Finn like wakes up in some random spot and I'm like, bro,
wait,
literally
you can't forget.
just...
He wakes up and goes, Ray!
Ray! Ray! Ray! That is what he does all three movies. It's so
legitimately
frustrating.
All he does. I'm like, so sad.
Ray! And it's so... we decided that Kylo Ren is her space boyfriend, where Finn is like her gay best friend. And it's just like, once you watch it, like thinking, you're like, yeah, he's like really friendly with like any girl he finds, and then like just stays like BFFs with them and like has no love interest except for Rose, who gets canned in the third movie.
He's not into Rose.
He's not into her though. She's into him
because he won't stop talking about Rey.
Right, and it's just like, bro, but he's obviously not into Rey. I don't know. I think it's stupid, and I don't mind Rose. I think she was a good character, but I also think that if you're going 3 movies, not every movie has to introduce 8 new characters, because then it's like, oh my gosh. And then they killed Snoke, which was stupid, because I was like, he turned into villain of the week. Like, he was supposed to be really cool, and now he's just like dead and he's gone. And I remember being in theaters like, Really? I remember not liking this movie in theaters. Being in theaters, like, I don't really get it. And this one feels the most like it's just strung together. It's like, I don't know, cut to this place. I don't know, cut to this place. I don't know, cut to this place. The plot does not work for me. I felt like it took 4 hours to finish. Like, I sat there. This is fun fact. This is the longest Star Wars movie in existence.
Is it
It's
really?
like 2 hours and 34 minutes or something like that. Granted, the others are like 2 hours and 33, so they're like barely longer. But it feels very long. I felt like it dragged really hard. And then when we paused it to like go to the bathroom, I was like, there's still an hour and a half left on this movie.
Yeah.
What is this? So I hated that. The pacing is terrible. Luke, like, we waited years to get this reaction to Rey handing the lightsaber to Luke, and then he immediately tosses it behind him, and I'm like, that was so anticlimactic and was just stupid. I didn't like that. It just kind of ruined his character. He was not enjoyable in this movie. I did not like Luke Skywalker in this movie. Now, that ran over. Here's what I liked about The Last Jedi.
Oh, you have things you liked? Okay.
I do have things I liked. So, I think that the best memes come from The Last Jedi. And I think I really, really liked the subplot where they're stuck on the ship, because that felt really tense, and I felt the weight of that. I really felt like it was just being trapped, and they can track us through hyperspace, like we don't have enough fuel, like this is crazy. And that felt really tense, and I liked that drama there. Laura Dern is here for some reason. I don't think we needed to add her, and she's wearing a purple wig. I really like Poe in this movie because he actually has a character arc, and he actually goes from like the prideful gung-ho guy to an actual leader.
Yep.
And like, you know, through Leia. That's a really great character arc. We can talk about this. The Holden maneuver, you can talk about how like that's not how it works. That's not it's be real time.
Yeah, it was time to be real. Sorry.
You can talk about like, that's not how it works. It's not how it should be. This isn't like this and that. At the end of the day, I thought it was baller. I remember being in theaters, the sound cuts out, and she just rips through that Star Destroyer, and I was like, okay, that's actually kind of awesome. Like, I think that's really cool. And then Luke at the end being a Force ghost fighting Kylo Ren is awesome. Like, that's really awesome because he used his own anger against him, and Luke at the end of the movie is kind of baller. He's really cool. It takes all his energy, which makes sense. That's like a really incredible task. And I think that what I do like is that the way that he defeated, air quote defeated, like distracted Kylo Ren was the most Jedi way to approach that, because he was like, I'm not here to kill you. He's like, I'm literally just a distraction.
Right.
He's like, I'm not. So
very non-confrontational.
Yes. So that was a very Jedi honorable way to do that, while also being a really cool fight. Here's what I will say.
Uh-oh.
I do not enjoy The Last Jedi. And even though it is objectively way better than The Rise of Skywalker. I enjoyed watching The Rise of Skywalker more this time around.
What?
The Rise of Skywalker was a more enjoyable watch, and asterisks, it's because we could clown it the entire time, because it was like a terrible movie. But it was more entertaining than The Last Jedi at face value.
We'll get there.
yield my time.
We'll get there. I don't fully agree with that.
I yield my time.
The Last Jedi, for me, is my favorite out of the three. And it has only exponentially, my enjoyment of it has only grown after rewatching it, because it kind of reaffirmed what I thought is it's the only one that feels arguably the most Star Wars out of the three. Because if you think about everything we said in the first episode, where we talked about how Star Wars is good, it's this entertaining thing, but it has this way of conveying these truths and realities of our world in a more understandable way. And The Last Jedi did that to an extent. The biggest shower of this is with the Codebreaker and how he's like, yeah, I stole this ship. How'd this guy make his money? He's selling weapons to the First Order. Oh, he's also selling them to the Resistance. The commentary on the military-industrial complex in this movie is so realistic because it's exactly what happens in the real world. Like, you see all these memes about, oh, my U.S. tax dollars funded this country who's fighting this country, but then we also sent money to the country that they're fighting so that they can keep fighting, and, like, we're perpetuating the conflict. And that is so accurate. But also, the whole let the past die, I think we've been looking at it from the wrong perspective. I think we're taking it at face value. At face value, it's very, oh yeah, just kill all the old stuff, it doesn't matter. But I think the deep underlying subtext of that is from Kylo Ren, or more accurately, Ben Solo's perspective. He was raised by these rebellion war heroes. Like, his parents are literally two of the most influential people in overthrowing the Empire. So he's heard the stories, seen the whatever their equivalent of, like, let's watch this historic video of, like, this thing happening. Like,
he's read the history books.
Right. He knows what happened. And he knows what happened before that. Because there's no way he didn't go back and do research on Anakin with as much as he's, like, invested in that family. So then to now see that the cycle is repeating itself again, which ties into what Luke said about letting the Jedi die. This movie exists to show you how the cycle will continually perpetuate itself. Be it the military complex, the light and the dark, like, it's always just a constant cycle that's going to keep going. So from Kylo Ren's perspective, this is why he betrays Snoke, because he's like, if we can take this out, and reaches out to Rey, is like, hey, if we can somehow find the balance between the light and the dark and bring those in together to make a balance, we can end this perpetual cycle of conflict. Now, does he lean a little more into the dark after she rejects him? Yes. And that makes sense, because this is like his olive branch of like, hey, we can fix this. And she's like, no, I want to keep perpetuating the cycle. So then he pendulum swings too far in the other direction. And if you think about it, all the Rise of Skywalker does is perpetuate the system that The Last Jedi set us up to take down. Because Rey kills the big bad, there's no dark side user, the Force is out of balance yet again. I don't like this idea from Star Wars fans that in order for the Force to be balanced, it means there's no bad guys whatsoever. That is not how balance works. That's why the Jedi... That's what Luke talks about in this movie, is the hubris of the Jedi was thinking that there was balance by there being 1,000 Jedi and no Sith. So then the Force, to correct that balance, moved Order 66 to wipe out most of the Jedi, brought up Anakin to the dark side to balance everything out. And honestly, the originals is the closest we have to any kind of balance in the Force. With Vader and Palpatine and then Luke and Leia. That is the closest we've ever come to balance. And that's what The Last Jedi is talking about. Is, hey, if Luke builds up a Jedi Order again, we're going to go right back to where we were with the Republic. There's going to be a massive light side people with no dark side to balance that out. And it's going to repeat, and it's going to cycle again. Now, all that to say, Luke is not handled great in this movie. Some of his points are very flawed in their logic. Some of the most that I wrote down is he's very like, oh, the Jedi need... you're bold to assume that if the Jedi die, then the light dies too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is how that works. Because the Jedi are the only ones using the light side of the Force.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But then he also makes a comment about how the Jedi are romanticized and they're like these war heroes. So his solution to that is to have no Jedi ever to correct that at all. Like, the solution to the romanticization of the Jedi is to have real Jedi who stand up for the values.
Right.
To ground and give a realism to the Jedi. And not be this like, oh, the Jedi, like they have these magic swords and they use the Force and like they do all this stuff. Like, have Jedi out there to be like, no, this is what a Jedi actually is. Not this romanticized idea you have in your head. So Luke has his own... he has his own flaws. I understand where he's coming from, but I also think his motivation to kill Ben is very loose at best. And he self-admits that like it was a lapse in judgment. But he never
Maybe I shouldn't have killed that kid. Oh,
but he never like sat down and talked to Ben.
Right.
Like, he never was like, hey, I sense a lot of turmoil and darkness in you. Let's have a conversation. And, like, let's talk about that.
You're
No,
just like,
I'm going to kill you.
I'm going to kill my son-in-law.
Which I can...
Or no, my nephew. He says, oh, time to kill my nephew. Huh?
I can understand why original fans are so upset by this. Because it is coming from the Luke Skywalker who refused to kill his father because there was still light in him. And was always searching for that light. So then for Luke to then attempt to kill his nephew and not try to find that light, I get it. But also that is disingenuous to the fact that he self-admitted it was a lapse in judgment. His own vision was clouded. And there was more to be said there. But that single moment is what solidified Ben in becoming evil. Was because he then felt that there was no redeemable thing about him. So he didn't believe in himself. So he fell into that dark, thus destroying the whole thing. There's a lot more nuance in this movie. This is why I like this movie, because there's at least some semblance of subtext.
Yeah.
It's not a lot, but it's there. There's just a little bit.
I'll say that while, like, that explanation makes sense. Like, it makes sense that is the path he would go. But making something in a movie that makes sense is like bottom tier. Like that should be the standard.
Yeah, this is the bar, not
this is the bar. Does it make
expectations.
sense? Okay. Step 1 is, does it make sense? Step 2 is it a good idea? Even if it crosses step 1, I don't think it crosses step 2. Like it. Even if it makes sense, it wasn't a good idea.
No, I mean that's fair.
Yeah.
Ideally, none of this would have happened, but also ideally, Kylo Ren would have been the villain,
Right.
not the antagonist. He's not really a villain. He's an antagonist to keep Rey from doing what she needs to do, and to push her in the direction of growth.
He's a plot device.
Yes.
Like he
is nothing more than a plot device.
Yeah.
And
Which
what
sucks.
I think, like I said earlier, this movie sets up the destruction of the cycle in such a great way. Because you have, like, later on, the biggest thing is that they legitimately tear apart the Skywalker saber. Like, it gets ripped in half, which is the first time we've ever seen a lightsaber explode like that, which was cool.
It was cool.
Only for it to then be completely put back together by the next one.
Yeah.
which is a very show don't tell us that you're going to perpetuate the cycle that Rian Johnson tried to warn us about by saying, hey, I'm going to break this because we're breaking out of the cycle. And no, we're going to put it back together because the fans want us to perpetuate what we're doing. So all of that is why I like the Rise of... Or the...
Whoa.
That was almost bad. Like The Last Jedi. Because I feel like it does a lot. It is the most where it does its own thing. Because it establishes Rey as a nobody. Poe gets character. Finn gets something to do that isn't looking for Rey the whole time.
Rey!
Rose is a character who was in fact there and introduced in this movie who does stuff. The crate stuff was really cool.
Crate is awesome.
ATM 6s, dude, with the big like gorilla hand legs in the front.
So good. That was good.
So good. And there is a lot of interesting stuff of like the Force Discord calls where they're like, "Hey, how are we doing this?
How are you?
I don't understand."
She's like, "Hey."
What? And
Can
like
you
even
please put a shirt
Kylo's
on?
confused. He's like, "I don't, huh?" And she's like, "Can you wear something?" He's like, "I don't have anything right now." Caught me at a bad time.
It's cringe.
So I also think they did a lot with Rey in her also being swayed to the dark side. Like, there was a lot more conflict in her than there was in Kylo Ren. And I think that's a cool thing to explore.
I agree.
That never really got explored.
That's the thing, is it was a cool thing, cool thought, but I knew from the beginning she wasn't going to turn.
Right, but you can work with that and knowing, like we knew Luke was never going to turn, but you can still play with the idea and make it interesting. And that's what I'm saying, is like they had the potential to make it interesting, but they never did with her. Yeah. So that stuff's cool. I really think Rey should have gotten a double-bladed lightsaber.
I agree.
Because she's so efficient with that bow staff that, like...
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Wasted potential.
Wasted potential. Could have given us another double-bladed lightsaber user, aside from Darth Maul and the Inquisitors, who are all evil, by the way. Disney, free money.
Why can't we have a cool people?
Free money, bro. I don't...
A light side hero with a double-bladed lightsaber.
Can we talk about...
Please.
Can we talk about Laura Dern for a minute?
Why was she there?
I can't stand her.
She's the actual worst.
Legitimately, what she was doing was so frustrating.
Right.
Like, if I was Poe, I would... Yeah.
I would have done the same thing. Yeah. I would also, like, she came out of nowhere.
I had no idea who she was.
They were like, oh, also this random person, she's in charge now. And it's like, who? Who are you?
The second
who
in
is
command
this?
to Leia. Well, I guess everyone who's not Leia was conveniently killed.
Yeah.
In that. Now.
Conveniently, because there's no Admiral Akbar or...
Could have easily...
There's no Jar Jar to fill in.
Could have easily fixed that by not doing the explodey space thing. Right?
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Keep all of the leaders alive. Come up with some reason why Leia gets taken out for a little bit.
You know, hospitalized.
Put anyone else.
Literally anyone else. Someone that already exists.
Could put Admiral Akbar in there.
Bro, that would have been crazy. I love Admiral Akbar.
Could have kept Leia there. I don't know.
Because this movie is so long and like there's so much happening. You could have cut out that entire thing and like reworked it to fit better with the cohesive plot.
Yes.
You know?
And like it just doesn't, like, she's there, but I never feel like I get attached enough to her that I feel bad when she dies. I'm like, oh, good. She did something useful for once. Also, I don't understand why she could not communicate to save her life. Like, there was no communication. That's not how running a military works. Why didn't she say,
she was a bad captain.
Hey, we are going to crate this planet because there's enough power there. We can make it there. When we get about halfway there, we're going to fuel up the transports, and then we're going to send them down to the planet under the gut because their scanners won't be able to see those. So they'll be able to get down there. You can send a message. This big ship will eventually go down, and they'll be like, oh, we got the resistance. Let's go. And then they leave. Instead, she does no communication whatsoever. Which sends Poe into a spiral because she talks down to him a lot.
Absolutely.
And I understand it's like someone needs to humble him and put him in his place.
Right. Because Leia's last act was to demote him, you know?
But also it's not like she made him a foot soldier.
No, right. Like, have some respect. Like, just general decency. Like,
because she was like, Captain, right?
Captain,
not commander
right?
anymore. Was it?
You're
you're not a commander. Remember,
oh
you're not like you sucked so much, and you got all those people killed. Remember, like 20 minutes ago, you got them killed, and it was Leia's Leia. You know, the general who's like the big lady. Yeah, it was her who demoted you from commander to captain. Not commander anymore, captain. I hate that scene
and it's just
so
like,
much. That's exactly how it sounds.
She's just so rude. She's so mean. And then when she sacrifices herself, I'm like, okay, like, what am I supposed to feel something? Like,
am I
I
supposed
don't
to
understand.
feel bad?
Am I supposed
What?
to? I like was kind of glad. I was like, yeah, get her out of here.
Finally.
And that's what sucks. Like the prequels, or not the prequels, the sequels are like, yeah, new character. Okay, let's get to know him.
Now kill
he's
him.
dead. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
What about, you know, this character that you actually know? Oh my gosh, is he gonna die? And like, it actually will move the plot along, and it'll actually, yes. Oh my gosh, you actually did it. Just kidding. Just kidding.
JK.
He's alive. He was on another ship. LOL.
He was
JK.
fine. I just wish Holdo. The communication thing is so easy to fix because it also. I don't know. You could have done something other than the Canto Bite. Canto Bite's
Why
not
couldn't
my
she
favorite.
have just been? No, that was not my fave. That's what contributes hardcore to it not feeling Star Wars. Is it's just like, where am I? Like, what is this? Because Star Wars is an expansive universe, but if you handle it wrong, it feels like it's different, and it like doesn't belong, and it's just like, why am I here?
I also feel like
how did I get here?
The Canto Bite stuff was interesting because it was commenting on a class of people that we already knew existed on Coruscant.
Right.
Like, we knew
like we've done this
rich
before.
war people who are profiting off of the war were all living on Coruscant, living it up. Now, the difference is Coruscant had a lot more of the, like, underworld, and they lean into that side of it more.
Right.
But you know the
Right.
rich people were also there living it up during the wartime.
Right. This isn't anything new.
So war profiteering
So,
is
like-
a very real thing. There is a group of people who are very rich and become very profitable off of the mere mention of war. They don't really care what happens
Right.
to the other people. They're like, well, more money for me.
Teehee.
And that's a very real thing we should be aware of. But there was a
Right.
better way to... There was a better place to do that.
Right. Not there.
Not there.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't. There's just, it's so poorly structured that I can't enjoy it. And it feels like it's so long.
Personally, I don't understand why everyone got so upset that Leia used the Force to save herself. It's not like she's, the daughter of the most powerful Force user of all time.
She's also literally had Jedi training.
We didn't know that until
Like-
episode 9, though.
Yeah, but like now with the context, I'm like, okay, that makes a little more sense. But I still think the way that they showed her Force ability was stupid. Like
there's a better
her
way to
whole
show
like, I'm floating through space, and I'm just like, shut the heck up. Like, that's stupid. I'm sorry. No.
And then, of course, with Kylo couldn't be the one to fire the missile. It had to be his other underlings because he didn't want to kill his
Right.
mommy.
Because he's light side. He's mama's boy. That's what he is.
He is a mama's boy. He had no problem killing his dad. His mom, though?
Yeah.
Mommy.
No. Mommy, no, please.
Mommy, I need my chicken nugget.
Yeah, so...
Can we talk about the hold-up maneuver?
we can.
Why is it called that? I hate that it's called that.
It
I
was
don't-
cool.
I don't like giving her that
It
kind
was
of
nothing
credit.
else than that. It was cool.
It opened up
but
a lot, much like Force healing.
Right.
opens up a lot
It
of
was like,
doors.
we could have done that the whole time. Like,
But of course, in the Rise of Skywalker, someone's like, "All right, let's pull off some holdo maneuvers." I'm like, I want to shoot
Right.
myself. No,
right.
no, stop.
Right.
That was a fan
even-
coined term that made it into the script. No.
And even then, he's like, that was a 1 in a million thing. You can't.
How
which
was
the
it a
whole
1 in a
point is
million? You're ramming
just-
a ship into another ship at light speed.
They're just retconning. They're like, the whole movie is damage control. They're like, we cannot continue doing what Ryan Johnson was doing.
It's 1 in a
That's-
million.
No.
But if you
No.
look at the end of Rise of Skywalker, someone else did it. So it can't be that 1 in a million.
Oh,
Why didn't we just launch through? Why didn't we just send a ship through Exegol?
You know,
Just
why
send
not?
a massive
What the
ship.
heck?
Just holdo maneuver the entire planet.
All you need is one sacrifice,
think
and you know,
about
or
that?
maybe we should just program ships to be autopilot, and then just like do that. It's just like, why? Like, why did we have to introduce that? Granted,
It's a cool
it was
idea.
awesome, but it was
It's
nothing
awesome.
else but cool. Like it was a cinematic set piece, and that's pretty much it. Like that, it held no actual. It causes more problems than solutions to exist.
Nah, you know what else causes more
And-
problems than solutions? The Rise of Skywalker.
The Rise of Skywalker.
I have one more thing to say about The Last Jedi, though.
Oh.
Is I think Finn should have died in this movie.
I agree.
As much as I like his character, him and his Rey yelling self,
Mm-hmm.
the poetic ending of, and Ryan Johnson was very clear in what he was trying to do, of like
Yeah.
Finn was running away again at the beginning of the movie, and
Mhm.
Rose is like, "Hey, my sister just died,
Mm-hmm. This is for real.
and I've been like keeping people from trying to leave." So then he takes on this big quest and is like, "Hey, I need to do something. Like, let's do something."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So as he's doing that, you see his character throughout the entire movie kind of be a, let's turn this on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the big instance was with the Codebreaker, where Finn's like, yeah, but these people are evil. Like, very black and white type thinking. And the Codebreaker's like, no, there's people who are gray, who are supporting both sides. And you can't really, like, run from it. So
Right.
then when he gets captured, he almost turns into Poe at the end of the movie, where he like turns his communicator off, is like ready to do this
Right.
self-sacrifice thing.
Which is also a character growth for Poe, because at the beginning he was the one that killed those people, but he was the one at the end that was like, "Guys, pull out! Like,
We gotta get out of
like,
here."
we can't do this." Yeah.
And I think it would have been very poetic for Finn to die and sacrifice himself against the very thing that he was running away from.
Mm-hmm.
Like, instead of the one time he decides to not run away from the First Order is when his sacrifice gets nullified by Rose, which I think is why a lot of people hate Rose. I don't think it's for anything else in this movie other than that.
Right.
And then her kissing him and being like, we're not going to win by
Right.
killing what we hate, but saving what we love. And then she kisses him for no reason. I think that boils
Yeah.
down to a lot of people's dislike of her character, which was then
Uh-huh.
very improperly placed on Kelly Marie Tran.
Yeah, because she didn't do any of that.
She, guys,
that was
that
not
wasn't her. That was Ryan
No.
Johnson.
Yeah.
That wasn't her.
And-
She didn't deserve that.
That is the second worst unneeded kiss in this entire trilogy. You know, there's and yeah, I think Finn should have died like that, sacrificed. I think they shouldn't have killed Snoke because he was supposed to be like the villain of this thing. And I think Ben Solo should have turned to the light side in The Last Jedi and fought with them in The Rise of Skywalker.
See, I disagree. I think, partially. I think Finn should have died. I think Snoke dying is fine if they put Kylo Ren as the actual main antagonist and committed to
Right.
something.
He was middle ground for too long. He either needed to go full light or full dark. Like
They never.
and you can still redeem him if you want, but they never actually put him on the throne. And it was just like, and then they're like, the Emperor's back, and I'm like, oh my gosh,
Somehow,
literally-
Palpatine returned.
literally, you're fired. Like this is come to my office.
Get out of here.
You're fired. So, but think about Star Wars. What I kind of noticed this time around was that there was no one gets to have a redemption story and then live. Everyone gets redeemed
And
and
then
then,
they die.
dies. And we can't, like, because heaven forbid we actually see the consequences of our own actions. And so, like, he could have been light side. And then, like, can you imagine the weird tension of Kylo Ren fighting with them in the Rise of Skywalker? That would have been really, really interesting. And he's, like, trying to figure out, like, how he feels about this whole thing. I think that would have been so much better because Ben Solo, you know from the beginning he's going to go to the light side. You know that. It's so incredibly obvious. Just go for it and then actually deepen his character in the third one.
Right. I mean,
all
I
I'm
liked what we saw of Ben Solo in The Rise of Skywalker, like that very little bit, towards the
Right.
end, where he really felt like a different character to Kylo Ren. I don't know.
Yeah,
I-
it's just not so
So that's
You
The Last
know,
Jedi. I guess we have
that's
to
The
move
Last
on.
Jedi. Do we have to?
Maybe we could just end the episode here.
I think we could end. Thanks for listening to the Nerdiest podcast.
No.
Before we start, I have a confession. And that's I saw The Rise of Skywalker in theaters. And
I did too.
when I was in high school, I really liked to review movies. And the thing is, when you're in high school, you go to the theater and you see a movie, giving no thought at all, solely based on your theater experience. You hop on Instagram and write your review of The Rise of Skywalker. So I have to confess my review of The Rise of Skywalker from the day after I saw it in theaters. This is not a review I stand by anymore. It was a review that I should have given more forethought to at all. I literally went home and wrote this. It was
Uh-oh.
solely based on theater experience. And I'd like to apologize for this review formally. Starts with, The Rise of Skywalker is a great movie.
Yeah, that's red flag number 1.
Spoiler free. I got to see The Rise of Skywalker yesterday, and it was great. All caps. I don't understand why anyone would give this movie anything short of an 80 out of 100. I'm seriously confused why this movie didn't get great reviews, whereas The Last Jedi got a great score. That doesn't seem right. At this point, it's kind of hard to trust the critics since there's no rating scale for just pure enjoyment.
Yeah, there is. It's called the audience score. That's literally what the audience score is.
Yeah.
The audience is rating it based on their enjoyment.
I'd like to formally apologize for my crappy high school perspective on Star Wars.
Yes, the YouTuber apology video for The Rise of Skywalker.
I'm sorry. Can you imagine? That'd be such a good video. Like, I apologize for liking The Rise of Skywalker.
So I went back and I found a post of me. This is when me and a bunch of my friends went to see The Rise of Skywalker opening night.
This is a big deal.
It was so funny because this is such a ragtag group of people. Because so what I did was when the pre-sale dropped for Rise of Skywalker, I
Mhm.
bought 9 tickets,
Oh my gosh.
assuming I would have 9 people to go with me to see
And you're like,
the
my
movie.
top 9 spaces.
Yeah.
Get
So I had
this.
8 tickets to get rid of. And I had most of them until we realized that December 20th, 2019 was the day after most of my closest high school friends got back from spending a week at Disney. And I was like, oh,
Oh. Okay.
Well, I'm stuck with 9 tickets now, and I don't want to go see it by myself. So I like pulled together this ragtag group of people who were free, and I was like, let's go. So there was that. And then my Instagram caption was, "The Rise of Skywalker was really good. I almost cried, y'all."
Yeah.
I'd like to also renounce that.
Yeah. It
That's
was
not,
emotions were high.
that's not correct.
Reading the letterbox reviews
Look.
for
Look.
Rise of Skywalker.
Look. As you can see, so here's The Force Awakens. Very short. Here's The Last Jedi. Also
Yeah,
very
you know.
short, but kind of fits, right?
Right. The Rise of Skywalker.
Here's The Rise of Skywalker.
That's a lot of notes.
It's a lot. And
There's
some
a
of
lot to
those are
say.
like double lines.
Right. You're writing paragraphs. See, I'd like to read some of my favorite letterbox reviews for The Rise of Skywalker. This
Can
one
we end off
says,
with mine?
Yeah, you can. It says, "I take back every mean thing I ever said about Attack of the Clones." Says, "The first Star Wars movie written exclusively by Reddit." This one says, "J.J. Abrams, turn on your location. I just want to talk." It says, "I have some information that could lead to the arrest of J.J. Abrams." This one says, "Palpatine is alive because spins wheel. He didn't die because he throws dart. There's a secret Sith planet and he's been there for 40 years just chilling." I really like this one. It says, "I finally relate to Star Wars because I also have a grandparent that only tries to reconnect when it's convenient for him." Gosh.
These are good.
This says, "Hearing Oscar Isaac say, 'Can I kiss you?' added 10 years to my lifespan." Oh gosh. My favorite is says, "Who are you?" "Ray." "Ray who?" "Ray Romano." "Deborah." And then I'll end with Nick's latest review. "Every time I watch this movie, I pray that God intervenes, but alas, this is part of the suffering we experience in this life."
I posted that on Twitter, and somebody replied
Oh
and
my
said,
gosh.
"Modern day poet." And I was like, yeah, pretty much. I was like, every time I have to watch this movie, I pray that God intervenes and has changed the movie, and it was all just an illusion what we saw in the theater. No. Because changing The Rise of Skywalker is not worth that much.
No.
Because suffering
God has
builds
better things to
character.
do. Yeah.
So
The Rise of Skywalker,
it's the movie of all
is-
time.
it is the worst Star Wars movie ever made. There is so many things, so many just parts of this movie.
I was
when I
screaming
rewatched
at the
it.
screen.
Yes. Rewatching this movie was one of the most painful experiences of my life because I was literally like every single scene has something different to rant about. I don't know how you got Star Wars so incredibly wrong.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. Especially when you have 2 entire movies with some build up to go off of.
Yeah.
Somehow, Palpatine returned. And
Which, by the way, if you don't remember, was not announced in a trailer. Was announced in an in-game event on Fortnite a week before the movie came out. They went to Rusty Reels and played a video clip that was the justification for why Palpatine was back. It was an in-Fortnite event. Not a trailer. Not the movie.
Not a press release, not
Fortnite!
a Comic-Con panel, not a Comic-Con panel, not a press release, not a trailer, not a teaser, not a nothing. A Fortnite event.
This movie was dead on arrival. There was no saving it. There was...
Some of the best content on YouTube is compilations of actors trying to pretend that they don't
liked this
hate the
movie?
Rise of Skywalker. She's like, "What's your favorite part of the movie?" And Daisy Ridley's like, "Yeah, it's like everything coming together at the end
Yeah.
is
So
so
good.
powerful." And she's like obviously like really carefully choosing her words.
Because she wants to get
And-
another job from Disney.
Right. And then John Boyega could not care less. He, like, when he does interviews for The Rise of Skywalker, he was like, yeah, these literally says sometimes, like, there's a line where, like, they're using jetpacks, and I'm like, they fly now? He's like, yeah, that's stupid, because if you've seen the Clone Wars, you know that they've been flying this whole time. And he's like, I didn't understand that at
Yeah.
all. And I was just like, oh my gosh, the actors know more than the writers. This is not good, because most of the time, and we've been very vocal about this, like, actors can comment on the films and characters that they play, you know, they should. But it's when the actors are like, they should have killed this character. It's like, okay, Millie Bobby Brown, like, you can be quiet. But, like, here it's so entertaining.
It's so valid because the actors
'Cause they
actually know more than the
They
writers do.
know. And it's like, oh my gosh. So also, not only has Palpatine returned, we learn that he's returned in the first 15 minutes.
Yes,
of
we had
the
to set up
movie.
a new villain because we can't be without a supreme leader.
Heaven forbid we have any kind of pacing at all.
God forbid
It's
we
like-
actually make Kylo Ren the villain.
Heaven forbid we have a movie where we aren't just going on one freaking 2-hour-long mission to get to this weird planet. And I was like, okay, was this planet just not on the GPS? Because everyone and their mother happened to get there at the end. Did they just need the coordinates? What is
Jackson-
this?
Clearly, you don't understand. The only way to get to Exegol is with the Sith Wayfinder. And there's only 2 Wayfinders that were never mentioned ever before. And to find the Wayfinder, actually, you have to go find a knife. And with
Oh, my
that
bad.
knife, you have to find the knife. And then you have to get the knife translated by someone who speaks Sith. But Sith is an evil language.
So the droids can't do it.
How did we establish that there was an evil language? That's like saying you can't speak Japanese because it's evil. That's not how languages work.
Right. It's
What do
like-
you mean?
What do you mean it's an evil language? What do you mean by
It's
that?
words, bro. Anyway, you have to get the knife translated. And then once you get the knife translated, it says, hey, here's where the thing is at. But what's so very interesting is that the knife is ever so perfectly the biggest plot contrivance and convenience in this movie is that Rey not only had the knife, but was standing in the exact perfect spot that the blade of the knife lined up with the Death Star wreckage to point to where the dyad thing was. What do you mean?
We
What
also want to bring up
are
the
you
fact that why did they even have the knife? They're like,
So
oh,
that they
we're
could
going
go
here.
to the Death
Oh
Star
no!
and-
Oh no! This sinking pit! We're in the sinking pit. This is so bad. Oh, never mind. Exactly what we need is right here. What do you mean by that? Why is it there? Who put it there? Who
the
did
guy who
this?
had it, who killed Rey's
Oh my
parents, he
gosh.
had the knife.
Also-
why was he
also-
carrying around a map knife? Chuck
Why?
that sucker into the sea so no one gets it ever.
Oh my god!
If you don't want to be found, don't leave clues to get found.
Also, he left it with that frickin' snake in the pit thing, which is the equivalent of like a World 3 Super Mario boss. Like that thing is like not protecting that crab. Also, the Death Star's every Death Star we've ever exploded, like, implodes.
It's
like
disintegrated.
It's demolished. What do you mean wreckage? Wreckage from what? It just have you done boom.
Have you watched Star Wars? It disintegrated, bro.
What do you mean? Oh, also my evil twin is on here. Okay, Kermit, what are you talking about? Oh my gosh.
The Death Star did not the Death Star 2 didn't explode enough. It exploded, but it didn't disintegrate enough so that there was wreckage on this other moon of Endor. Not the one that we're used to. The one that we're not used to. The water one.
This is bull.
It's like Endor, but it's instead of a forest, it's the water moon of Endor.
Wink, wink, wink.
And Palpatine's chamber was somehow perfectly intact in the Death Star that exploded at the end of Episode 6. Also, do you know where Kylo Ren is at the beginning of the movie?
Something about how there's a place that Darth Vader defended.
Yeah. Do you know where he's supposed to be?
Where?
Darth Vader's castle on Mustafar. Where
That's
was
not
that
Darth
ever
Vader.
established?
Who was gonna tell me that?
We know Darth Vader has a castle on Mustafar. We saw it in Rogue One.
Oh my
Saw it in
gosh.
Kenobi. Why was it such a big deal? He was just in a random desert with a slightly red hue turned up in color correction. Somehow Palpatine returned.
I hate it here.
Through what can only be described. I hate that this script is just full of fan memes. Because the justification for Palpatine coming back is the dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural. And then it's never talked about again. That was
is
it.
Literally, their explanation was somehow.
How?
But
I
if
don't
you
know.
played
He
the
just did.
Fortnite event, and it's like, what?
But if you play Fortnite, you'll know.
It's like, oh my gosh, this is bad. I don't even know what to say.
I don't even know where to start, bro. I'm just gonna go through my notes. My notes are in chronological order. We'll do it that way.
Please.
Kylo as the main villain would have been so cool
Would have been better.
because he kind of was for the first little bit, but not because he was looking for Palpatine, who has somehow returned.
Somehow.
Where did he get all of those Star Destroyers? All with guns that can level planets. When did we minimize the Death Star tech? This is what doesn't make sense to me. Because we have the two Death Stars, right? Planet destroying weapons.
Right.
Then we have Starkiller Base. This is like the iPhone. We start out small, but people want it bigger. So the second one is like slightly bigger, but it's never quite finished. And then the third time, okay, we're going to get massive. We're going to up our capabilities to now we can punch in a bunch of numbers and destroy multiple planets with one shot. But we do have to suck out the entire sun. To now, we have literal laser guns that can destroy planets like the Death Star. Where did this tech come from?
Yeah.
What? And if Palpatine had this army and was like planning this all from the beginning, why didn't we start here? Maybe let's start with the Star Destroyers that can destroy planets. That, to me, if we started here in The Force Awakens, I'd be like, okay, you've established yourself as a legitimate threat. Because Palpatine's like, yeah, I was controlling Snoke, and we see a bunch of, like, Snoke clones.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the case, why didn't you whip out the Star Destroyers that can go pow and destroy a planet? Send 4 or 5 of those to wipe out the New Republic. You don't need a planet-sized gun to do that.
Here's the other thing is he has 1 billion Star Destroyers in this movie.
And they all get taken out.
And they, 1, all get taken out, which like a little punk. And then 2, there is no actual threat to these Star Destroyers because they're on this remote planet that like Mario Galaxy style that no one can ever find.
Get to.
And so it's like, yeah, you have 1 billion Star Destroyers 1 million miles away from anything. I'm never afraid that one of these Star Destroyers is going to kill anyone.
Except for the one time it does.
And so it's like, guys, I understand, but also the stakes are not high, like, at all here. And I think I hate the way that the Rise of Skywalker uses the Force, because the Force is not a character.
That's
in this
not
movie.
how the Force works.
That's not how the Force works. The Force is a plot device in this movie. How do you know that? The Force. Oh my gosh.
Stop.
Leia died. The Force. I know because of the Force. There's still light in him. How do you know? The Force. I had the Force. This person is here. How do you know? The Force. The Force told me. The Force is not a video game hint. You know? The Force is not a little ping to say, hey, this knife is right here, by the way. Hey, oh, I need help. Like, where I can't find my quest. It's not... But that's how they use it in this movie. And it's just garbage. And they're just like, oh, and then Finn is obviously so Force sensitive. And then they can't even do anything with it. It's just like, why? And they're just like, oh, the Force told me. No, you're pulling this out of your butt.
Get outta here.
This is not real. I'm going to start saying whatever I want and then saying it's because of the Force. Like, 2 can play at this game. They just misuse it. They don't understand it. And it's so freaking annoying.
All right. Continuing on. The one good thing, I'll give a praise to this movie.
All right.
Finn and Poe are an incredible, like, swashbuckling Falcon
They're
pair.
a good duo.
Like, them being on the Falcon with Chewie and, like, doing that whole escapade at the beginning, that was cool.
That was cool,
I liked that.
actually.
And
Yeah.
to extrapolate from there, I really like the dynamic between Rey, Finn, and Poe. I think they work well together as a trio. I wish they got to do that more outside of this one movie.
Right.
Like-
Because Rey doesn't meet Poe until the end of The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
So they're only together for this movie. And so it's like, bruh.
Which is wild to me that in the time it took Rey to get ready at the end of 7 to leaving in 8, there was no overlap there at all. That's okay.
Which is also BS because the end of The Last Jedi actually ends really well. And you're like, okay, where do we go from here? You know, we have like 10 people left, like in our resistance. Like, this doesn't look great. Never mind. We have like 100 people again. I don't know,
we're back up. We got a new
We're
base. We got a
back,
bunch of
you know,
ships. Yeah, we're all good.
And it's like, what? What happened?
The
What
Last
did I
Jedi
miss?
arguably ends in a more hopeless situation than Empire Strikes Back.
Absolutely.
The Last Jedi
Wholeheartedly.
ends better for the context of the trilogy it's in than Empire. Because Empire, Luke's been hurt, but he's a hero, and now we got to go save Han, and then we're getting ready to final strike on the Empire.
Right.
The First Order now has completely overthrown. They are the new government.
Mm-hmm.
But that's never established.
No.
They're really just a hostile coup the entire trilogy. So
Yeah.
it would have been nice to, even if it was a montage, just see a little bit of how they rebuilt the resistance to where it was at. Because they kind of rebuilt it back to where it was at the end of Force Awakens.
I don't know why we couldn't have a Fortnite event explaining how we came back to this.
J.J. Abrams just
really
likes.
missed
He must
opportunity.
really hate Rian Johnson because he likes to pretend that movie never happened.
The entirety of the Rise of Skywalker is just retconning what Rian Johnson did.
I don't
and
think
I'm like,
there's a
bro,
single thing from The Last Jedi that carried over into this movie.
No. I was like, dude has beef. Like,
Except
that's
for
crazy.
Rose. But even Rose is gone.
She got so little screen time.
She
They did
legitimately,
her
I Googled
dirty.
it. She has 10 minutes of screen time in a 2.5
rough.
hour movie.
That's so rough. They did her dirty. Like, she was actually a good character, and like her relationship to Finn was really good. And
she
then
could have come with on the
Oh,
little
well.
excursion. Why did we
Oh,
take
well.
3PO? Why did
Also-
3PO go instead of Rose?
also, we are literally, it's so freaking Scooby-Doo the way that they go on this adventure. They're like, let's split up, gang. And it's just like, this is the dumbest freaking, and then they're like, yeah, Poe was a drug dealer. And it was like, what? What? When was that ever a thing? Oh yeah, he used to work here, and I'm his former lover. What? Who are you? Who are you?
Which is so weird because I could have sworn there was previously established lore that, like, because they imply that Poe came from like a poor family, much like
Right.
a Han Solo.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, I could be mistaken, Poe's parents were rebellion pilots.
Weren't they?
And they were
I don't
like,
know.
they would have had status in the New Republic. And he grew up around X-Wings and ships and stuff, and that's why he was such a good
Yeah.
pilot, and that's why he naturally grafted into the Resistance. Not because he was a spice runner
Nope.
who had a change of heart, which, by the way, is exactly
Yeah,
what
that's
Han
crap.
Solo was.
Yes.
Was a spice runner and a smuggler who had a change of heart.
And
What?
the-
What?
Come to my office. You're fired. Like, this is not.
What?
As we kind of, I could do this for hours.
I'm
But as we
going to
kind
do
of,
this
like-
for hours. I'm not. No.
Tell me about the end.
The Rise of Skywalker. No. The Rise of Skywalker does not get off this scot-free. No.
What else do you say?
Why they fixed Kylo Ren's mask
Which is
for
crap.
no reason
Yeah.
with a mask monkey, by the way. Fixed his mask.
The mask.
I just thought that was funny. Okay, fine. I'll speed through my notes here. I wrote a lot, and they are not going to go unread. Such a terrible explanation talking about Palpatine's justifiable
Yep.
return. Mask monkey. The Knights of Ren have something to do, and they're here.
And then they still go down like a bunch of punks.
And I'll take them doing something over them being non-existent and doing nothing.
True.
Rey, Finn, and Poe are a good trio. Yeah. The dual location, or I'm sorry, the dual location duel is actually the coolest scene in the movie.
That's
where,
actually
like,
really cool.
He's on
It
the
is actually
planet and
dope.
she's in the ship, and they're like force connecting and
Yeah.
doing all that. That's cool. What are the odds that the knife matches the Death Star wreckage like that? I think that's my best rant in this entire podcast.
Yeah. It's just like.
I try
Yeah,
not to get
yes.
mad and like yell at the mic, but that was such a good.
That was just crap.
Why does Evil Rey get a double blade lightsaber? Another great, really cool lightsaber design where it's like a
We get to
switchblade,
use for 5 seconds.
where it's like both blades are up here, and then she unhooks it and it becomes a double.
That's
Because
awesome.
Rey's clearly efficient at using a single blade, but also knows. I skipped over it, but I wrote down, fixing the Skywalker saber robs Rey of the chance to make her own. And I think that is something we talked about before recording, is the sequel trilogy robbed Rey of being her own character. Nothing was hers. BB-8 was not her droid.
Yeah.
The Skywalker saber was not her lightsaber. The Falcon was not her ship. There was nothing that was hers that she made her
Right.
own. Whereas, like, Luke had his X-Wing. Yes, he had the Skywalker saber, but then he made his own. R2-D2 was his droid. Like, I just wish they did her better. I don't dislike Rey.
I don't either. But they really they shoehorn her into the Skywalker family so hard that she couldn't be Rey. She had to be Rey Skywalker, which is just absolute.
All right, let's talk
garbage.
about that. The rest of my notes are pretty much that.
So
They make her a Palpatine. Or I'm sorry, she was a nobody.
mhm.
Then she was a Palpatine. And then she was a Skywalker. That's a lot to do in one movie.
That's stupid. This is so stupid.
If you wanted to make her a Skywalker, cut out the Palpatine middleman and just say
and just make her a Skywalker.
that she's Luke's kid.
Yeah.
And Palpatine's manipulating another Skywalker kid.
But also, you could also be like, hey, you're not a... Just cut out the Palpatine thing and make her a nobody, but then let her have a conversation with Leia, because Leia was her master and was the closest thing she ever had to a parent.
Yeah.
And so make it like a, hey, your family isn't always your blood connection. And, you know, that's a really great point that they could make if they had a really heart-to-heart conversation. And then she'd be like, yeah, like, I've been accepted into this family. And so, like, that would make the Rey Skywalker scene really sweet. And it would have been like, aw.
Actually, they did that in a way, kind of. Because she
They didn't
talks to
communicate
Luke,
that, though.
and Luke tells her, yeah, we knew you were a Palpatine the whole time, but we didn't really care. But we didn't feel pertinent to tell you. This person who's been asking about her past and trying to figure out who she is, that didn't seem pertinent information to tell you, even though we figured it out.
98% of the problems in all three of these movies are just communication errors. Like, why can no one tell anyone anything?
Not important. But the reason, you know, Leia so trained you is because she saw the potential and the character and the drive and the motivation.
Right.
And then Luke's like, some things are thicker than blood. And I'm like,
Gosh.
so you're telling, not showing again.
Right.
Okay.
But, okay.
Whatever.
So it was a thought, but not a complete thought. So
You had an idea. I don't,
you know,
I don't,
makes sense is bottom line.
I don't care that she's a Palpatine or a Skywalker.
Right.
My bigger issue is that they wanted to do both, so they did in the worst way possible.
Yep. Yep.
Because, like, why doesn't she just redeem the Palpatine name? Like, own up
Right.
to it and change it. You're not
Right.
beholden to your family name. But then they
Which
have
could
her
have been
reject
another
it.
great point. They could have been another great point. And then they're like, no, we can't do that. We can't do that.
Or, like,
It's like, oh my God.
the symbolism of her burying Luke and Leia's sabers at Luke's home.
Yeah.
You could have let the Skywalkers die there. If you really wanted this to be a conclusion to the Skywalker saga, let those sabers being put to rest be the end. Let that be the end of the Skywalkers.
Yeah.
Everything else about this movie, let's say it stays. You had Ben Solo, who was the last Skywalker, rise up against Palpatine, much like Anakin and Luke did, to kind of come this full circle, Palpatine, you're not going to manipulate our family anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And rebel, push back, he's gone. But so are the Skywalkers.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of this cancel each other out.
It's the end of the bloodline.
The
yeah.
yin and the yang. There's no Palpatine, but he also wiped out all the Skywalkers. So let Rey be a nobody or a Palpatine.
Mm-hmm.
And then move forward and carry on the legacy of the Skywalker without
The
the
name.
name. And let the
Yeah.
Skywalkers be done. Because now if you move ahead with a Rey movie or anything after this, you're just continuing
You're
the
still
Skywalker
tied to the
saga.
Skywalkers. You're just tied to the Skywalkers.
So for a movie
which
that
is
wants
so
to end the Skywalker
stupid.
saga, you sure are trying to continue it
Right.
by making her Rey Skywalker.
Making her a Skywalker. I mean, and then, what I will say that they got right is she considers herself a Skywalker and then kissed another Skywalker. So, you know, that's... I'm just saying,
I
you
hate
know,
that so
they
much.
got that right. That was a callback. I like that.
I hate that so much.
They're
Oh,
They're freaking,
and
like-
they would be closer to siblings too because she looked at Leia and Han as
Leia like a
parental
mom.
figures. Stop.
You know,
I hate that.
yeah, they didn't need to kiss at the end. That was out of nowhere,
and the
you know, there was-
novelization will try to justify it as a friend kiss, as a non-romantic platonic kiss.
that was a friend
I don't-
kiss.
I don't walk around kissing people of the other gender like that.
Not. Oh, we're friends.
We're friends.
She literally like caresses his face, like, bruh. I don't
Get
know
out of here
about
with that justification.
But we're
I don't wanna
just
hear that.
friends.
I don't
We're
wanna hear
just
it.
friends. And I'm just like, what kind of screwed up worldly definition of friends is this? Like, no, get out of here. Get out.
Friends with the benefit of
You're
you
off
can
it.
revive
You're
me
come
when
to
I
my office.
die.
You're fired.
You know what? You know what the best scene in this entire movie is?
What?
The only one that I think was actually executed well is when Poe, Finn, and Chewie come back to the base.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, we need to talk to the general. And that other lady is like, she's dead.
No, she's dead. Yeah.
And Poe and Finn are both in shock.
Yeah. But Chewie just loses it.
Chewie just loses it, man.
That is
legitimately watching it
actually
again
so
yesterday,
sad.
I almost started tearing up.
Yeah.
Because
No, me
think about
too.
it from the context, everyone he knows is dead.
Dude, Chewie's been through the ringer. He's been here since before the Clone Wars. Like,
If
dude
anyone's
was-
been close to the Skywalkers, it's been Chewbacca.
Chewie's my favorite. Chewie's my fave.
He was the
represent
last
Chewie.
one. And
He
like,
was, yeah.
I can't imagine how close he was to Leia because of how close he was to Han.
Well,
and
you
Leia
even see
was
that
his
in The Force
wife.
Awakens. In The Force Awakens, you see him, like, even when Han and Leia are kind of awkward, like, oh, I don't know. Chewie just goes straight to hug Leia. Like, Chewie has been through it. And, like, how old do Wookiees live? Because bro's old. Bro is old.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then tell me about Jedi's talking to Rey to give her all the strength
I think
she
it's
needs
fine.
to. I think it's okay. I mean, I don't.
As
I don't
far
know.
as we know, canonically, contextually, she is the last Jedi at that moment.
Yeah.
Because we don't know if Ezra, Ahsoka, and Sabine are still alive. We
Yeah.
don't know the status of Baby Yoda,
Yeah.
and everyone else would be dead.
So sure.
So sure.
I guess it makes sense.
Whatever.
Why not? Why not?
I
That's
think
kind of
the
whatever.
"I am all the Jedi" is a really corny line.
It was
that
very.
was meant to parallel that one from Endgame where he's like, "I'm inevitable," and then the big
like,
hero gets
"I'm
the
inevitable.
"I'm Iron Man,"
I'm Iron Man.
but without all
Boom.
of the
Right.
emotional resonance of that scene.
Right. Yeah.
It's just kind of corny. Where he's like, "I am all the Sith,"
The Sith.
and he's using his
She's like,
generic
"I'm all the
Force
Jedi."
lightning attack that he always
Right.
uses.
He with the one where he uses unlimited power.
Dude, can't forget the
Yeah, it's
unlimited
just-
bass boost in this movie, where he's like,
Boo.
"Whoa."
Wow.
This-
And dude.
The end of this movie is very like, I got all my Lego ships off the shelf. We're going to wrap up our 7-year storyline here.
Right.
But even my
right.
7-year Lego storyline has more depth and
Ooh,
emotional
has more depth.
storytelling than The Rise of Skywalker.
No, it's true. And then it feels very Harry Potter. The end is very Harry Potter. Like Palpatine wants to be Voldemort so bad. Like they really wanted that like final duel between the two most powerful, but like there was no actual establishment as either of them as the most powerful, and it's just like, bruh, why are we here? Like,
Yeah,
this
there
is
was
not-
nothing to
this doesn't
establish
hit.
Rey as the most powerful Jedi, aside from she was the only one there.
Right. So she was the most powerful Jedi by default. She's excelled in her category.
For what it was.
Uh,
And I know we're coming up on 2 hours here. We'll briefly go over the other script. For what it was, I do like the concept of Rey embracing being a Palpatine in the slightest
Mhm.
to stand up against him. and stand with a Skywalker to defeat Palpatine. I think that if you isolate that moment, I think it's good.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing with the Rise of Skywalker is there's a lot of moments that are good if you isolate them from everything else.
Right.
If you isolate
Which
this
is bad.
moment, it's good. It has that like Star Wars like original trilogy-esque storytelling of this redemption and resisting the dark side and pushing back against the ultimate evil. You'd think Palpatine would learn maybe to stop shooting lightning if it starts shredding your face off for the second time this has happened to you. I don't know, man.
Also, maybe don't trust Kylo Ren to kill her. Like, isn't this exactly what you did last time?
Dude, he's just an idiot.
I don't understand why Rey died at the end, though. There was no like indication that her life force was being sucked away.
No.
But if it was
It just took all her power?
From Palpatine powering up, then
I don't
Ben
know.
also should have died.
Right.
So she lived because he 1 + 1 is 2'd her life force?
I don't.
Or
freaking
0
know.
+ 0
It
is
just makes
1?
No sense.
By some.
Just makes no sense.
All right.
All right.
Let me pull up a synopsis of this script.
So look at this new script, and we'll go over it, and then wrap up here.
So, Star Wars Episode 9, Duel of the Fates, was the original draft of the third film in the Star Wars sequel trilogy, named after, obviously, the music. It was written by Colin Trevorrow and Derek Connolly, who, by the way, Derek Connolly is attached to write the Zelda movie.
Oh,
But-
that's nice.
But. Let's just say that this script has a lot more potential. It's not a great script, but it's also a first draft script from 8 years ago or 9 years ago now.
Right.
So, or no, it was 8 years. I was right.
Yeah.
So, it was leaked online in January of 2020. By who? I don't
Who's
know.
to say? Maybe Colin Trevorrow.
I don't know who leaked it. I don't remember how it got leaked.
Yeah.
But, so here, I'll go through a brief synopsis here and we can kind of talk about it. So, the First Order rules the galaxy. General Hux is the Chancellor and block communications across the galaxy. So, we're doubling down on their threat from The Last Jedi.
Good work.
Obviously, our main characters are free to do whatever they want. They steal a ship and they go to a base where Leia is the general, and they've established a new base. Now, this whole script was predicated on the fact that, unfortunately, Carrie Fisher passed away.
Right.
And they didn't have that context because this draft of the script was done the same month she passed away.
Okay.
So it would have needed to be retooled either way. That is something neither of these sequel movies could have escaped.
Right.
So, Kylo Ren discovers a Sith holocron in Darth Vader's castle on Mustafar, which leads him to seek the training of a 7,000-year-old alien named Tor Valum, who taught Emperor Palpatine's master, Darth Plagueis.
Oh.
So we're going, like, way back.
We're going back, like...
Kylo fights a Phantom of Vader and masters the power to absorb life energy, which is something Palpatine did that we didn't know how he could do it aside from he's just got powers.
Yep.
He then uses this energy to kill the Master Guy. Rey learns from the Jedi text that she took from Octum that the old Jedi Temple on Coruscant contains a device that can restore galactic communications. So everyone goes there. But Rey, Chewbacca, and Poe... So Finn, Rose, R2, and 3PO go to Coruscant to find the magic transmitter thing.
Right.
Rey, Chewbacca, and Poe go to find the location of the planet Mortis because Rey is like, I saw myself fighting Kylo Ren there, which all the Clone Wars fans' ears perked up because Mortis is the planet I don't know how to explain this to a non-Clone Wars watcher.
Dang.
Mortis is the planet where all of the Force is concentrated.
Okay.
There's a light, a dark, and then there's the middle, who balances them both. It's one of the best arcs in the Clone Wars, honestly. But that is a big deal. Leia convinces Lando to join the Resistance, and they do stuff on Coruscant. Finn and Rose do the thing. Rose gets captured. Finn escapes, fights a stormtrooper, and then Finn's character in this movie would have been to convince other First Order stormtroopers to defect and show them the light on Coruscant. Meanwhile, Rey finds Mortis. They get attacked by the Knights of Ren, but they defeat them. But then Rey instinctively uses Force Lightning to kill one of them after she remembers that they killed her parents.
Oh.
But now she runs into that, like, oh, I'm so scared that I'm going to hurt people. So she goes off on her own, which is very much like what happens in Rise of Skywalker.
Mm-hmm.
Finn leads a revolution on Coruscant against the First Order. The First Order headquarters was on Coruscant now, which is why they were there.
Yeah.
Which is such a good idea. But, so they do that. The Resistance shows up. The First Order is defeated. Hux commits seppuku with a purple-bladed lightsaber.
Oh.
So he commits sewer slide instead of being captured. But it's established in this movie, I guess, that he had a lightsaber collection like General Grievous.
Okay.
And then he, like, killed himself with one of them.
Okay.
So, and then on Mortis, Rey and Kylo fight. He blinds and almost kills her. Luke offers moral support to Rey, confronts him again, and Rey says her masters were wrong to reject the dark side and embraces both, allowing her to defeat Kylo. Kylo attempts to kill Rey by draining her life energy, but Leia manages to contact him through the Force and convinces him to stop. As a result, he transfers his life energy to Rey instead, healing her, saving her life at the cost of his own, which is basically what happened.
Right.
But
in a more condensed manner.
Before Kylo dies, his last words reveal Rey's true birth name to be Rey Solana. So she is a nobody, but we have a last name. On the verge of death, Rey meets with the spirits of Luke, Yoda, and Obi-Wan, who allow her to choose between staying dead or returning to life. Finn, Poe, Rose, and Chewbacca receive medals at Resistance Base. Finn and Rose settle on a planet, and they have Force-sensitive kids. And then Rey arrives to teach the children of the Force and how to balance the light and dark to maintain galactic peace.
Dude,
so the biggest thing here is that it continues the theme from The Last Jedi of maybe we need to embrace both to find a true balance and not swing in one direction either way. And that is something I wish they kept. Now, the theory on why he got fired, because Colin Trevorrow got fired because I guess the script wasn't good enough, is because apparently, theoretically, the script didn't have a big bombastic ending where everyone was together. Which, if you look at The Rise of Skywalker, as flawed as it is, it does have that. Where, everyone's here. This is like the indomitable human spirit against an ultimate evil type thing.
Right.
Like, Rey and Kylo are on a completely different planet, and everyone's over here, and like...
Yeah.
So I understand that aspect of it, but I think narratively there's a lot more potential here, because at the very least, it doesn't spend its runtime trying to retcon the previous movie while also wrapping up a 9-episode saga.
Right. You can't do both.
It also relies a lot... So, okay, let's go to a Screen Rant article here. 10 things Duel of the Fates did better than Rise of Skywalker. It gave Kylo Ren a true mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Kept Kylo Ren the bad guy. Yeah?
Yeah.
General Hux was no joke.
He was a joke in the movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He actually was a no-nonsense kind of guy. More Rose Tico.
Baller. Let's do it.
Could have fixed that. Stuck with the story. I think this is the biggest one. Is
Yeah.
that it narratively
It wasn't
followed
damage
the threads.
control.
Yes, it wasn't a course correct. Rey isn't super powerful. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
More Force Ghosts. That's whatever. More Luke Skywalker. Another big one is it embraced the prequels. We went back to Coruscant, which kind of, if you want that full circle thing, it ends where it began. The original Clone Wars started on Coruscant. Now we're going to end this on Coruscant. Like, that makes sense.
Which is awesome.
You also go into the Mortis, which was a big Clone Wars thing and like really tied into that balance of the Force. That was the whole thing. Was the father had his son who was evil and his daughter who was the light side. And he was trying to convince Anakin to stay there and balance them. So to like go back to that and have Rey be this character who's like, well, there is a balance. You can strike a balance between the light and the dark because Star Wars has predicated itself on that one cannot exist without the other, but all we do in these movies is talk about how the light will always triumph over the dark and the dark can't exist. Another big one, it kept Palpatine dead.
Amen,
brother.
Amen.
That was
Amen,
the biggest thing
hallelujah.
anyway. And I mean, even looking at some of the concept art for this movie, Rey got a double-bladed lightsaber, so that's cool.
It's just going to be infinitely better. And then they got scared and cut it. Granted, I also don't love most of Colin Trevorrow's films, so maybe it would have been just a train wreck. Who's to say?
I think
so.
I feel like, and something I'm careful not to do, is elevate Duel of the Fates because of how bad The Rise of Skywalker is. I think it's very easy to elevate this for the potential that it was.
Yeah.
Because we acknowledge how bad The Rise of Skywalker is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, I don't know. You can feel free to look at the concept art and read through the script. The full script is available on Internet Archive if you want to actually read through it. And there's like synopses and stuff where you can find what happened.
Yeah.
The sequel trilogy is a mess.
It's kind of a wreck. And, you know, we haven't had a Star Wars movie in theaters since. And
we talked about that before we started recording. Of like, before The Rise of Skywalker, we had a ton of movies on the docket. For like, we had a Rian Johnson trilogy. We had another director Taika Waititi had a trilogy. Rogue Squadron was a thing. Like, that's 7 movies right there.
Yeah, we were going to keep going.
All vanished into thin air when The Rise of Skywalker came out and nobody liked it.
And they were like, yeah, we need to go all in on TV shows. And it was like, why?
So that wasn't
the problem. But, well.
But it is what it is, I guess.
I think that's a comprehensive
review
review of all 9 Star Wars
movies. And you
movies.
thought this episode was going to be shorter than the other one because we had half the movies.
I
told
said,
you we were going to fill the time.
Right. But, you know, you said 2 hours. So, hey, guys. We're not done yet. Because come back next week. We're going to be putting all these movies into a tier list.
Yep.
And it's going to be awesome. So, don't change that dial. We're going to see you next week for the Ultimate Skywalker Saga tier list. So thank you so much for listening to these episodes of the Nerdiest Podcast, part 1 and 2. We hope you really enjoyed. I really enjoyed rewatching, and, you know, this is a fun conversation to dog on the sequels because they're awful. So thank you so much for joining us today. If you like what we're doing, leave a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen, and follow on Instagram at the Nerdiest Podcast and on YouTube at the Nerdiest Podcast. And make sure you follow and send it to a friend because word of mouth is the best way for us to grow. Now you can also go to the nerdiestpodcast.com to get our amazing special merch for you. We have hats, mugs, you know, pins, stickers, anything, shirts, anything you'd ever want. And we're gonna have some new stuff coming soon, so keep an eye out on the Instagram for that. Without further ado, we'll see you next week for the Ultimate Skywalker Saga tier list. But until then, bye.